KeyForge players all around the world have been playing and experimenting with the newest set, Grim Reminders, and from what we've seen so far, people are having a great time with it. The set is full of some remarkably powerful cards, and in today's video, I wanted to go over 10 of the most ridiculous cards in the set. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first card is Retro Technician Lee, who's pretty much Witch of the Dawn cranked up to 11. He reads, if you are haunted, Retro Technician Lee enters play ready. Reap, you may play a creature from your discard pile. So when you're haunted, you can straight away gain an Ember from reaping and play a creature from your discard pile, potentially recurring play effects or valuable static effects. It's kind of like Exhume or Be Our Geist, but on a stick, repeatable. With multiple copies, you could even reap with Lee to play another Lee from the discard pile, to play another Lee from the discard pile, and so on and so forth. The value in this card is immense, definitely one that enables some crazy stuff. Speaking of Be Our Geist, that's our second card on this list, and it's essentially Super Exhume. It allows you to play a creature from any haunted player's discard pile, and that includes your opponent's. This will be particularly interesting cross-set, playing your opponent's previously killed Infernuses or Subject Kirby's or Cephalois with your Grim Reminders deck. Being able to replay your Trawlers or Haunting Witches, or perhaps ones belonging to the opponent, is an amazing tool to have access to. Over in Untamed, we have one of the coolest chase cards in the set, the Witch Queen. She's the new Untamed leader, replacing Eldest Bear, and reads, each other friendly witch creature enters play ready. While Witch Queen is in the center of your battle line, each other friendly witch creature gains Skirmish, Elusive, Poison, and Destroyed. Return this creature to its owner's hand. Not only does this mean that all your Witch of the Eyes and Jervies are entering play ready and essentially becoming mini Xenos Blood Shadows, but the Witch Queen is also the new Frost Giant or Antiquities dealer for Winds of Exchange, typically bringing in extra cards from past sets as legacies. There are Witch Queen Untamed pods out there with Legacy Chota Hazris, some with Legacy Dusk Witches, and even Dark Harbingers, which in turn bring in their special mutations. One of the best pairings with Witch Queen is Jervy. Not only is there a Moorwolf in her art, which is amazing, but that reap effect is just ridiculous, essentially a repeatable Orb of Wonder, and Witch Queen gives you instant access to it. But that's not all. As if that wasn't enough, another card in the set is the Witching Hour, which returns each witch creature from your discard pile to your hand. Your opponent used up a bunch of their resources to finally get your witches off the board. Too bad, now they're all back at once. Untamed really popped off with the whole witch theme this set, and I love it. Psychic Haze is a rare artifact in Mars that reads, enraged creatures cannot be used to fight friendly Mars creatures. Action, enrage each enemy creature. This card will be killer against decks with a very reap-heavy game plan, and will be great tech against token creatures depending on which token they have, such as Scholar. This card almost makes me think of Pester Grove, but one-sided, although you do have to keep calling Mars to fire it off. On top of all that, it also prevents enraged creatures from fighting your friendly Mars creatures, so if all your opponent's creatures are constantly enraged, it'll almost force them to have direct out-of-hand removal to deal with your Mars. Overall, it's quite disruptive and definitely a card I'm looking to open in my Mars pods. In Brobnar is Beanstalk. This card has been talked about in a few places already, and it's quickly becoming a Brobnar staple. It reads, friendly giant creatures enter play ready. Action, search your deck and discard pile for a giant creature, reveal it and put it into your hand. Your Blunderboars, your Lifting Buddies, your Headhunters, and yes, even your Brick Nasties all enter play ready when this diabolical card is on the board. And as if that wasn't enough, you can search anywhere you want to put a giant into your hand, deck, or discard pile. It's stupidly powerful, especially with the right Brobnar cards to go with it, and it's 100% a chase card everyone is gunning for. Next, we have Fiery Jark, a common Brobnar creature with a play effect just like that of Bouncing Deathquark. Bouncing Deathquark, at common, in a house with plenty of removal already. And it's in creature form, meaning it'll deal with the likes of Briozorch as well. It's just such a phenomenal tool, allowing you to target whichever must-kill creatures across the board you need destroyed, with its only real drawback being how many creatures you yourself have on the board or are willing to get rid of. A third Brobnar card is Memorialize the Fallen, Brobnar's new form of scaling Ember control. Rant and Rive is gone, and now we have this one, which reads Play. Each player loses Ember equal to the number of creatures in their discard pile. Obviously, depending on where each player is in their deck or how many creatures are in your respective decks, the impact of this card will vary, but late in the game, when players will tend to have lots of creatures in their discard pile, Memorialize the Fallen may almost feel like a Shatterstorm. On a few separate occasions, I've lost upwards of 10 or even 12 Ember all at once with it being played against me. If you can purge it away from your opponent, do so, especially when it comes in multiples. In Equidon is Tachyon Manifold. It reads, action, take another turn after this one. Your opponent draws 10 cards, purge Tachyon Manifold. Manifold can act as a key cheat in the right circumstances. If you hit check on your first turn, then trigger it, you'll head straight into your next turn without giving your opponent a chance to stop the Forge a Key step. This would be ideal in a third key scenario, so you don't have to risk giving your opponent that extremely pricey draw of 10 cards. Though, in a case where your opponent does get to draw 10 cards, head into Unfathomable and play Catch and Release, bringing them right back down to 6. Now that's a brutal combo. 2 turns right in a row, with your opponent being no better off for it, essentially deleting any compensation that was due them. Forgotten Guardian would be great to pair with Tachyon Manifold as well. Art Project is a card in Equidon with a similarly shocking effect and identical compensation. It reads Play, unforge an opponent's key. If you do, purge Art Project and your opponent draws 10 cards. Usually when you unforge an opponent's key, they get paid back for losing that key, like we've seen with cards like Break Key and Keyhammer. But in this case, they're given 10 free cards to potentially boost them back towards reforging it. Your opponent will essentially have to forge 4 keys to win their game, and again, if you have some sort of counter to their card draw like Catch and Release, that's ideal. But still, it's a rather risky card to play, and I see it being discarded much of the time. And our last card for today is in Geistoid, Island of Misfit Toys. It reads, Action, return each Geistoid card from your discard pile to your hand. Purge Island of Misfit Toys. Like how Be or Geist is Super Exhume, Island of Misfit Toys is Super Arise, because you're not just returning each Geistoid creature to your hand, but each Geistoid card. Holding 80 to 90% of a single house in your hand will almost always result in some sort of devastating blow to your opponent, dropping a massive board and lots of actions all at once. Since it's an artifact, you can just leave it on the board until the most opportune time to trigger it. Prime Geistoid pods will have a great time with Island of Misfit Toys, and I can't wait to see how it gets abused. And there we have it, 10 cards from Grim Reminders that are absolute powerhouses. I'd say at least most of these cards are chase cards, cards you always want to open when cracking decks that can potentially bring your deck to a whole new level. Let me know what you guys think of these cards in the comments below, or what cards you might add to the list from your own experience playing with this set. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.